Hey guys, how you all doing? BionicleSaurus here, and we are going to be doing another dinosaur figure review, and in this video we will be taking a look at CollectA's attempt at representing the awesome and huge carnosaur from early Cretaceous Africa, Carcharodontosaurus saharicus. For those who do not know, or if you haven't seen any of my previous reviews, I have a rating system for every figure from F to A based on detail, scientific accuracy, and overall appearance. So without further ado, now that you know that, and that you've seen what figure we are going to be taking a look at, let's actually take a look at this figure. So starting with overall appearance, this figure is very impressive sheerly because of the size. It is approximately 1/40 scale and is almost a foot in length, 12 inches. I'm not sure how much that is in centimeters. I am crap with the metric system, sorry. But overall, it looks great. Its mouth is wide open in the standard theropod roaring pose, which we are so familiar with. And I think it definitely works for this type of creature since it is bigger than T-Rex and should look very impressive and fearsome. The pose is very naturalistic, not super active, but still very real looking. If you put him in a realistic outdoor setting, he really could look quite real if you did some good trick photography like I enjoy doing on my DeviantArt page. Certainly a lot better than the usual tripods we get with, say, Carnegie Collection figures, or even some of CollectA's older figures. The paint scheme, very, very much like a tiger. I mean, this is something that everyone's mentioned, and I'm sure CollectA was doing this intentionally. It's straight up orange with black stripes. However, the head is a little bit different. It has a white streak across it, a black muzzle, and blue on the temporal fenestras and the orbit, which is interesting to see. Perhaps this is a male, and he would use those colors to attract possible mates, or to fend off rivals. So, all in all, for overall look, this figure gets a straight A. To me, this figure is a great balance between a ferocious hypercarnivore and a real animal just trying to survive. It looks natural, but also quite monstrous at the same time. I think CollectA did a really good job with this one. Moving on to detail, and I have his mouth right up at the camera for a reason. Individually sculpted teeth. Huge props to CollectA for doing this. So few companies take the time to do individual teeth in their sculpts, but CollectA did for this figure, and they look phenomenal. So much better than the usual teeth we get on, say, Safari Limited, or sometimes even Papo or CollectA figures. These teeth are awesome. But anyway, enough focus on those. Let's get on to the rest of the figure's detail and sculpt. As much as I appreciate some of the details like the tiny claws and individually sculpted teeth and some of the smaller scaling around the eyes and whatnot, for the most part, this figure's detail and texturing is a little lackluster, I must say. Most of the scalation is just poorly done, lazily done. It's just a lot of big crocodilian looking scales and not very detailed, and you know, for $20, it makes this figure look like more of a toy and less of a model, which is definitely not a good thing. I will give CollectA props, though, for very good paint application. Besides the finger claws, which the black paint on the claws slightly bleeds onto the actual hand, besides that, the whole figure is painted flawlessly as far as I can tell. Everything looks fine, which is more than I can say for even companies like Papo, which most people rave about their paint apps and quality control, but I find a lot of problems with those types of figures. This guy, though, I can't find much issue with. But all in all, as much as I like the individually sculpted teeth, and as much as I am impressed by CollectA's quality control on the paint application, for detail, this figure only gets a B. It really could have been more detailed in the sculpt and the scalation. It just looks a little sloppy and a little bit like it was done in a hurry. Now on to scientific accuracy, the most important category of the three in my opinion. And as you can see, the figure is now mooning the camera. And that is because the first thing I'd like to touch on as far as accuracy is concerned is CollectA actually included a vent, a cloaca, an anal slash vaginal slash penile opening. Yeah, for those who don't know, birds and reptiles just have one all-purpose hole. Yeah. Anyway, that went to a weird place real fast, but weirdness aside, it's awesome that they included this. So many companies either forget about it or, I don't know, maybe have an issue with including that kind of detail, but it's great to see CollectA doing that, and as far as the actual opening itself, there's nothing to complain about. It looks plenty scientifically sound and accurate, so yes, without further ado, let's actually look at the other parts of the figure, because as much as I like that, this figure has a lot of accuracy issues, and we're going to get to that right now. First off, the proportions. For the most part, they're decent. Some people are saying the legs are a bit too short. I don't really think so, although I do think that the second segment could be a bit longer, and the third segment could be a bit shorter, like this is just a little off. The hands are not pronated, that is always good. The arms are about the right length, head about the right size, tail about the right girth and all that. The biggest issue with this guy's proportions is he has thunder thighs. I'm sorry, this guy has the widest hips I've ever seen, and it's not just him. A lot of CollectA's recent theropods, the upcoming, Acrocanthosaurus and Tyrannosaurus Rex look like they also have this issue, and I believe it's for stability, but to be fair, I had to run this guy's feet under hot water and bend them to get him to stand anyway, so I don't think they help that much. To me, it just looks a little bit off. It could help if the legs were a bit longer, but like I said, I really don't think that specifically is the issue. I think it is that the hips are far too wide. Another small gripe that I haven't really heard too many other people talk about is the feet, and this is once again a problem I've seen on a lot of CollectA's big theropods. The toes should be longer and the claws should be shorter. This ratio is way off. You have this little stubby foot and these huge scythed toenails, and that is just not right. I'm sorry. However, the issues do not stop there, sadly. The biggest problem with this figure is the severe shrink wrapping of its head. Both the temporal fenestra and the orbit and the antorbital fenestra, this, and this, they are all way too defined. They are just huge concave indents into this animal's face. It looks emaciated, it looks bad, and it is not up to date, especially considering this figure just came out in 2014. And like the other things I've just mentioned, this is something I'm also seeing on other CollectA figures, surprise, surprise. Even the new T-Rex that's coming out, or that has come out with feathers, has this issue, and that is a big turnoff for people like me and other dinosaur fans who care about that kind of accuracy. It's just lazy. I mean, they didn't clearly bother to look at recent accurate reconstructions. They just did the standard reptilian look. So yes, if shrink wrapping bugs you, which it really should, this figure, that's a huge turnoff for this figure and a lot of other CollectA theropods. So it's because of that annoying issue that honestly a lot of other companies have really escaped from, that I'm giving this guy a B- for scientific accuracy. He was going to get a C+, however, the fact that he is non-tripodal, that's one thing I didn't mention, he stands on his own 2 feet, and the fact that they included a cloaca are two nice little things that I think bump it up to a B-, but between that, between the shrink wrapping, the odd toe to toenail ratio, and the wide hips, this guy has a lot of anatomical issues, and if you give him any more than a B-, I mean, that's your opinion, but to be honest, I really don't think he deserves any more than that. There are far too many scientific errors on this figure for my liking. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the final overall rating of CollectA's Carcharodontosaurus. And for this figure, I give a B. It could be better if they had paid more attention to recent paleontological findings and studies. The shrink wrapping, the odd toe-to-claw ratio, and the wide hips and thick body are all pretty big paleontological errors, along with the sloppy scalation and detailing along the whole of the figure. However, there are some really nice things. It is not a tripod. It stands on its own feet without any help, although right now it is technically, its tail is touching the back of my white background. Oh, actually, no, it's not. Anyway, its hands are not pronated, they included a cloaca, and individually sculpted teeth. Those are all great things, however, they do not make up for this figure overall being somewhat mediocre in my opinion. One thing about it is, that I didn't mention previously, it's either made out of a very light plastic or it's hollow, which, either way, I am not a fan. This figure to me just feels like, while they're claiming a lot of scientific accuracy on it, I don't really think it is that accurate, and as far as quality is concerned, it feels less like a figure and more like a toy. And I think that's what's really bugging me overall about this model. But in the end, it still is pretty much the only decent representation any companies have put out of Carcharodontosaurus saharicus. So I think we have to give CollectA props for at least attempting to make a reconstruction of this awesome animal. So without further ado, I have a very busy schedule today, a lot of things to do, including editing this review. And so, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time. This is BionicleSaurus, signing out.